You have spent your whole life trying to be understood by people who will never get it. That one truth might be the most freeing thing you hear tonight. Right now you are staring at this screen. Something brought you here. Maybe it was a long day at work. Maybe it was a conversation that left you hollow. Maybe someone you love said something so off base it made you question your own sanity. You sat there choosing your words carefully. You spoke slowly and clearly. You made sure your tone was gentle. And still the other person looked at you like you were speaking a foreign language. They responded with something that had nothing to do with what you just said. They twisted your meaning into something you never intended. They made it about themselves. They changed the subject entirely. Or worse, they just stared blankly and moved on as if you had said nothing at all. You walked away from that conversation feeling drained. You got home and sat down and felt this wave of exhaustion crash over you. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. The kind of tired that lives deep in your chest. The kind that makes you wonder why you even bother trying. If that sounds like your evening, then I want you to know something. You are not alone in this. Millions of people right now are feeling the exact same weight. They had the exact same kind of day. They dealt with the exact same kind of person. And just like you, they are wondering what is wrong with them. But here is the truth that changes everything. There is nothing wrong with you. The fact that you notice the disconnect is not a flaw. It is not a weakness. It is not a sign that you are too sensitive. It is actually evidence of something remarkable inside your mind. And tonight we are going to talk about that. We are going to dig into why some people seem impossible to communicate with. We are going to explore the science behind this phenomenon. We are going to look at what is actually happening in the brain. And most importantly, we are going to talk about how you can protect your peace. How you can guard your energy. How you can stop giving your best to people who cannot receive it. This is not about being cold. This is not about shutting people out. This is about being wise with the kindness you carry. Because your kindness is real and it deserves to be spent wisely. So stay with me. Let yourself breathe. And let these words meet you right where you are tonight. Let me ask you something honestly. After you talk to someone who just does not get it, do you blame yourself? Do you sit there replaying the conversation in your head? Do you wonder if maybe you said it wrong? Maybe you were not clear enough. Maybe you were too emotional. Maybe you expected too much. And then comes the worst part. You start thinking maybe you are the problem. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe your patience is too thin. Maybe at your age you should be better at handling people like this. That thought right there is a lie. It is a quiet lie that sounds reasonable. It sounds like maturity. It sounds like self-awareness. But it is actually self-punishment disguised as wisdom. You are not the problem. You were never the problem. And tonight I want to explain why with clarity and compassion. Let us start with the foundation. When two people have a conversation, there are two layers at work. The first layer is the words themselves. The actual content of what is being said. The second layer is everything that is not spoken out loud. This includes tone of voice. It includes facial expressions. It includes timing. It includes body language. It includes the energy in the room. It includes what is implied but never directly stated. Research in psychology has shown something fascinating about these two layers. The unspoken layer carries far more information than the words themselves. Some studies suggest that the majority of communication happens nonverbally. That means when you are talking to someone, you are not just hearing their words. You are reading their face. You are sensing their mood. You are picking up on micro-expressions that flash across their features. You are detecting slight changes in vocal pitch. You are feeling the emotional temperature of the room. And you are doing all of this without even thinking about it. It happens automatically. It is like breathing. You do not decide to do it. Your brain just does it. This is a skill. A deeply human skill. And not everyone has it developed to the same degree. Think about what you do naturally every day. You walk into a room and within seconds you know something is off. Someone is upset but has not said a word. You notice your coworker is quieter than usual. You sense tension between two people even though they are smiling. You hear someone say they are fine but you know they are not. You adjust your tone when you sense someone is fragile. You hold back a joke because the timing does not feel right. These are not small things. These are incredibly sophisticated social calculations. Your brain is processing thousands of tiny signals in real time. And it is doing it so fast and so naturally that you do not even realize how remarkable it is. Now here is where the problem begins. Not everyone can do this. Some people have brains that process communication very differently. They hear the words but they miss everything else. They do not pick up on tone. They do not read facial expressions well. They do not sense the mood of a room. They do not detect when someone is hurt or frustrated or holding back. They are not doing this on purpose. They are not being cruel or dismissive intentionally. Their brains are simply wired to process the surface level of conversation. They catch the literal meaning of words and nothing more. Everything underneath the words is invisible to them. Imagine a radio for a moment. A beautiful song is being broadcast over a specific frequency. If your radio is tuned to that frequency, you hear the music clearly. Every note and every melody comes through perfectly. But if someone else has a radio that is tuned to a completely different frequency, they hear nothing but static. The music is there. The signal is strong. But their receiver is not picking it up. That is exactly what is happening when you try to communicate with someone who does not get it. Your message is clear. Your intent is pure. Your words are thoughtful. But the person receiving them does not have the equipment to process what you are really saying. They are only hearing static where you are sending a symphony. This is not your fault. This is not about your ability to communicate. You are broadcasting beautifully. The problem is on the receiving end. In psychology, this is often described as a difference in cognitive processing. Some people operate with what researchers call low cognitive empathy. This means their ability to step into another person's perspective is limited. They struggle to imagine how their words land on someone else. They have difficulty understanding that other people experience the world differently than they do. They genuinely believe that their view of reality is the only view. When they say something hurtful, they often have no idea it was hurtful. When they dismiss your feelings, they do not realize they are dismissing anything. When they talk over you, they do not notice they are doing it. This is their normal. This is the only way they know how to interact. And this is why no matter how many times you explain, how many times you rephrase, how many times you try a different approach, the result is the same. The disconnect remains. Because the issue was never about your words. It was always about their capacity to receive them. Now I want you to think about your own life for a moment. Think about that one person who comes to mind when I describe this. Maybe it is a colleague you have worked with for years. Someone you have tried over and over to communicate with. You have adjusted your approach dozens of times. You have been patient. You have been direct. You have been gentle. You have been firm. Nothing works. Or maybe it is a family member. Someone you have known your entire adult life. Someone you love deeply but who consistently says things that make you feel invisible. You share something important, and they change the subject. You express a concern and they tell you that you are overreacting. You ask for support, and they make it about themselves. Or maybe it is a friend. Someone you have been close to for decades. Someone who used to understand you but somewhere along the way something shifted. Now every conversation feels like you are speaking two different languages. You leave every interaction feeling more alone than before. Whoever this person is, I want you to hear this clearly. You did not fail them. You did not fail yourself. You have been doing an incredible amount of emotional work. You have been carrying the weight of both sides of the conversation. You have been working overtime to bridge a gap that was never yours alone to close. And that is exhausting. Of course it is exhausting. You have been doing the emotional labor of two people in every single interaction. Anyone would be tired. Let me tell you something about the kind of person you are. You are the one who notices when someone is quiet at a gathering. You are the one who sends a message to check on a friend. You are the one who remembers what someone said weeks ago. You are the one who holds space for other people's pain. You are the one who chooses your words carefully to avoid causing harm. You are the one who replays conversations to make sure you were kind enough. You are the one who absorbs the emotions of the room like a sponge. You are the one who gives more than you receive in almost every relationship. Do you realize how rare that is? Do you realize how valuable that makes you? Do you realize how much strength it takes to live that way every single day? Most people have no idea how much energy it takes to be this aware. They do not understand because they have never operated at that frequency. They have never had to manage the emotional weight that comes with deep perception. They go through their days picking up only the obvious signals. They miss the subtleties entirely. And because they miss them, they never have to process them. Their emotional workload is lighter. Not because they are stronger, but because they are receiving less information. You, on the other hand, are receiving everything. Every signal, every vibration, every unspoken word, every shift in energy. Your brain is working constantly to interpret and respond to a world of information that most people do not even know exists. This is why you are tired. Not because you are weak. Because you are processing so much more than the average person. In psychology, there is a concept that describes people who process sensory and emotional information more deeply than others. These individuals tend to notice subtleties that others overlook. They reflect more deeply on their experiences. They are often moved by art and music and nature in ways that feel almost overwhelming. They are deeply affected by the emotions of the people around them. They need more time to recover after intense social interactions. If this sounds like you, then you need to understand something important. This is not a disorder. This is not a flaw. This is a trait that carries immense value. The world needs people who can sense what others cannot. The world needs people who care deeply about the feelings of those around them. The world needs people who notice when something is wrong before a single word is spoken. That is you. That has always been you. And the reason you feel so drained after dealing with someone who does not get it is precisely because of this gift. Your system is designed to connect deeply with others. When it encounters someone it cannot connect with, it creates a kind of friction. Your brain keeps trying to find the signal. It keeps reaching out. It keeps searching for that emotional frequency. And when it cannot find it, the dissonance is painful. It is like a musician with perfect pitch being forced to listen to an instrument that is out of tune. They cannot ignore it. They cannot just let it go. Every wrong note hits them harder than it would hit someone who cannot tell the difference. That is what happens to you every time someone says something that is completely disconnected from reality. Every time someone dismisses your feelings. Every time someone responds to your vulnerability with indifference. Every wrong note in the conversation hits you harder because you can hear what the music is supposed to sound like. Now let us talk about where this ability came from. Because you were not born this way. You developed this sensitivity over decades of lived experience. Think about your 20s. Think about the relationships that shaped you. Think about the first time someone broke your trust. The first time you had to navigate a toxic work environment. The first time you realized that not everyone has good intentions. Those early experiences started the process. They taught your brain to pay closer attention. To watch people more carefully. To listen not just to words but to what was behind them. Then came your 30s and 40s. More experiences. More relationships. More lessons. You watched people you trusted let you down. You held someone through a crisis that no one else even noticed. You learned to read a room before you spoke. You learned to sense danger before it arrived. You became the person everyone came to when they needed support. Not because you asked for that role, but because people could feel that you understood them in a way others could not. And now in your 40s, 50s, or 60s you carry the accumulated wisdom of all those years. Your empathy is not some abstract quality. It is the product of every conversation you have ever had. Every tear you have ever shed. Every time you bit your tongue to keep the peace. Every night you stayed up worrying about someone you love. Every sacrifice you made so that someone else could feel safe. All of that built the person you are today. A person with an extraordinary capacity to feel and to understand. And that is something to be deeply proud of. Not something to apologize for. But here is the part that most people miss. Having this much empathy comes with a responsibility. Not a responsibility to others. A responsibility to yourself. Because if you keep giving this level of emotional energy to everyone without discrimination, you will burn out. You will have nothing left for the people who truly matter. You will have nothing left for yourself. This is what happens when you keep trying to get through to someone who cannot hear you. Every attempt costs you something. Every failed conversation takes a piece of your energy. Every moment of frustration chips away at your reserves. And over time, without even realizing it, you become depleted. You start to feel numb. You start to lose interest in things you used to enjoy. You start to withdraw from people you actually care about. Not because you stopped caring, but because you spent all your caring on someone who could not even receive it. That is the real danger here. Not that someone does not understand you, but that you keep pouring yourself into a vessel that has no bottom. I want you to think about a garden for a moment. Imagine you have a beautiful garden. You have spent years cultivating it. Planting seeds. Pulling weeds. watering the soil. You know every plant by name. You know what each one needs. This garden is your emotional life. It is your inner world. Now imagine that every day you take the water meant for your garden and pour it onto dry concrete. The concrete does not absorb it. The concrete does not grow flowers. The concrete just sits there unchanged no matter how much water you pour on it. Meanwhile, your garden is dying of thirst. That is what happens when you keep investing your emotional energy into people who cannot receive it. Your garden suffers. The people who actually appreciate your care and attention start to get less of it. And the worst part is you do not even notice it happening because you are so focused on trying to make the concrete bloom. It is time to redirect the water. It is time to let the concrete be concrete. It is time to tend to your garden again. And that starts with one of the most powerful concepts in psychology: setting emotional boundaries. Let me explain what a boundary actually is because it is one of the most misunderstood concepts out there. A boundary is not a wall. It is not about shutting people out. It is not about being cold or cruel or indifferent. A boundary is simply a line you draw inside your own mind. It is a decision about what you will and will not invest your energy in. It is a quiet internal agreement with yourself. It sounds like this: I will be polite and respectful to this person, but I will not seek their understanding. I will interact with them when necessary, but I will not chase emotional connection with them. I will accept that they are who they are, but I will not let their limitations define my worth. That is a boundary. It is not dramatic. It is not confrontational. Most of the time, the other person does not even know it exists. It lives entirely inside your mind, and it protects your energy like a shield. When you have a boundary in place, the next time that person says something disconnected or dismissive, something shifts inside you. Instead of feeling that familiar rush of frustration or hurt, you feel something calmer. You feel a kind of quiet distance. Not anger. Not sadness. Just a simple recognition. This is who they are. This is how they process the world. This is their limitation, not mine. And just like that, the emotional charge is gone. The conversation that used to ruin your entire evening now barely registers. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped expecting. And that is the key. Expectation is the root of almost all relational suffering. Think about it carefully. When does someone hurt you the most? It is not when a stranger says something rude. You can brush that off. It is when someone you care about, someone you have invested in, someone you believe should know better says or does something that shows they do not see you. The pain comes from the gap between what you expected and what you received. You expected understanding and got indifference. You expected compassion and got dismissal. You expected acknowledgement and got silence. Every one of those hurts is rooted in an expectation. And I am not saying your expectations were unreasonable. They were completely natural. Of course, you expect the people close to you to understand you. Of course, you expect basic emotional reciprocity. That is normal. That is healthy. But when you are dealing with someone whose brain literally cannot process emotional nuance at the level yours can, then those expectations will never be met. Not because they do not want to meet them, but because they cannot. And holding on to an expectation that can never be fulfilled is like waiting for rain in a desert. You will stand there forever, and the sky will never open. At some point you have to accept the climate and adjust accordingly. Here is what that adjustment looks like in real life. You stop trying to make them understand. You stop explaining yourself for the 10th time. You stop rehearsing what you are going to say, hoping this time it will land. You stop analyzing what went wrong after every conversation. You stop giving them the power to determine your emotional state. Instead, you let them be who they are. You interact with them at the level they can handle. You keep things surface level when that is all they can offer. You save your depth for people who can meet you there. And you remind yourself every single time that their inability to understand you says nothing about your value. Let me say that again because it is that important. Their inability to understand you says absolutely nothing about your value. You are not less important because they cannot see your importance. You are not less intelligent because they cannot follow your reasoning. You are not less kind because they cannot feel your kindness. You are not less worthy because they cannot recognize your worth. The sun does not stop shining because someone closes their curtains. You are still shining, whether they see it or not. Now I want to talk about something that happens to a lot of people in midlife. There comes a point somewhere in your 40s or 50s when you start to realize that your time and energy are not infinite. When you were younger, you could afford to spread yourself thin. You had energy to spare. You could stay up late worrying about someone. You could spend hours trying to fix a relationship. You could absorb conflict after conflict and bounce back the next day. But as the years pass, something changes. Your recovery time gets longer. Your tolerance for nonsense gets shorter. Your desire for peace grows stronger. And suddenly the relationships that once seemed manageable start to feel like burdens. This is not a sign that something is wrong with you. This is actually a sign that something is very right. You are entering a phase of life where quality matters more than quantity. Where depth matters more than breadth. Where authenticity matters more than obligation. This is the season for what I call the quiet inventory. It is the process of looking at every relationship in your life and asking a simple question. Does this relationship give me energy, or does it take energy away? Not every relationship needs to be perfectly balanced. Sometimes we give more than we receive, and that is fine. But there is a difference between a relationship where you give more because you choose to and a relationship where you give more because the other person is incapable of giving at all. The first is generosity. The second is depletion. And you deserve to know the difference. Start paying attention to how you feel after you interact with each person in your life. Some people leave you feeling lighter. You laugh with them. You feel seen. You feel heard. You walk away feeling like yourself. Other people leave you feeling heavier. You feel misunderstood. You feel drained. You feel like you have to perform, or explain, or justify your existence. You walk away feeling less like yourself. The people in the first group are your people. Protect those relationships. Invest in them. Nurture them. Show up for them with all the love and attention you have to give. The people in the second group need a boundary. Not a confrontation. Not a dramatic exit. Just a quiet internal adjustment. A decision to give less of yourself where it is not being received. This is not cruelty. This is wisdom. This is the kind of emotional intelligence that only comes from decades of living and learning and hurting and healing. You earn this wisdom. Use it. One more thing I want to address before we go further. Some of you might be thinking that this sounds selfish. You might be thinking that a good person gives to everyone equally. That putting up boundaries is a sign of a closed heart. I want to challenge that thinking. Because that belief is actually one of the most destructive ideas that kind people carry. The idea that you must be available to everyone all the time is not kindness. It is self-abandonment. The idea that setting limits means you are cold is not true. It means you are aware of your own humanity. The idea that you should be able to handle everything without complaint is not strength. It is a recipe for breakdown. Real kindness includes kindness toward yourself. Real generosity includes being generous with your own rest. Real love includes loving yourself enough to say, "This is where I stop." If you cannot take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anyone else. That is not a cliché. That is a fundamental truth of human psychology. Every therapist in the world will tell you the same thing. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And right now your cup might be running very low because you have been pouring it into people who do not even notice. So tonight I want you to give yourself permission. Permission to stop trying so hard with people who cannot meet you halfway. Permission to protect your energy without guilt. Permission to choose peace over obligation. Permission to let go of relationships that only take. Permission to prioritize the people who actually see you. Permission to rest. You have been carrying a heavy load for a long time. You have been the strong one in your family. You have been the reliable one at work. You have been the one everyone comes to but no one checks on. You have been holding it together so well that people forgot you might be falling apart. Tonight I want you to put that load down. Even if just for a few minutes. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let yourself breathe all the way in and all the way out. You do not have to fix anyone tonight. You do not have to save anyone tonight. You do not have to understand anyone tonight. You just have to be here. And you are here. That is enough. Now let me talk about something very practical. How do you actually implement boundaries in daily life? Because the concept is simple but the execution can be tricky. Especially when the person you need to set boundaries with is someone you see every day. A spouse. A parent. A coworker. A boss. A sibling. You cannot just disappear from their life. You have to interact with them. So how do you protect yourself while still being present? The first step is the mental shift we already discussed. You change your expectations. You accept who they are. You stop hoping they will suddenly become someone different. That alone removes about half the emotional weight. The second step is what I call emotional dimming. This does not mean you become fake or cold. It means you consciously choose to engage at a lower emotional frequency with that person. You do not share your deepest thoughts with them. You do not seek their approval. You do not go to them for comfort. You keep the interaction functional and pleasant. You save your emotional depth for people who can handle it. Think of it like this. You do not play your most beautiful song for someone who has their fingers in their ears. You do not open your most treasured book for someone who cannot read. You do not cook your finest meal for someone who has no sense of taste. You match the level of engagement to the capacity of the person. This is not disrespect. This is discernment. The third step is what I call the internal narrator. This is a technique where you narrate the situation to yourself in real time. When the person says something disconnected, instead of reacting emotionally, you narrate it internally. There it is. The pattern I expected. They responded exactly the way I knew they would. This is their limitation. I do not need to take this personally. This simple act of narration creates a tiny space between the event and your reaction. And in that space, you have the power to choose your response instead of being controlled by your emotions. This is not about suppressing your feelings. It is about giving yourself a moment to decide what those feelings deserve. Some situations deserve your full emotional engagement. A conversation with your best friend about something deeply personal. An honest exchange with someone who truly listens. A moment of vulnerability with someone who earns your trust. Those situations deserve everything you have to give. But a frustrating exchange with someone who has never once understood your point of view, that does not deserve your full engagement. That deserves a boundary. The fourth step is recovery. Even with boundaries in place, you will still have hard days. You will still have interactions that get under your skin. That is normal. You are human. The key is to have recovery practices in place. Things that refill your cup after it has been drained. This looks different for everyone. For some people, it is time alone. A quiet walk. A hot bath. A few minutes of stillness before bed. For others, it is time with people who truly understand them. A phone call with that one friend who always gets it. A conversation with someone who makes you feel seen. For some, it is creative expression. Writing. Music. Gardening. Cooking. Something that engages your mind in a way that feels productive and peaceful. Whatever it is for you, make it non-negotiable. Do not treat self-care as a luxury. Treat it as maintenance. Your car needs fuel. Your body needs food. Your mind needs rest. And your heart needs environments where it can expand instead of contract. Give yourself that. You deserve that. You have always deserved that. Let me talk about one more important thing. Forgiveness. Not the kind of forgiveness that means what they did was okay. Not the kind that means you have to let them back in. I mean the kind of forgiveness that sets you free. Because here is what happens when you hold on to resentment towards someone who cannot understand you. The resentment does not hurt them. They have no idea you are carrying it. They are going about their day completely unaware. The resentment only hurts you. It sits in your chest like a stone. It colors your mood. It steals your sleep. It makes you bitter in moments that should be sweet. Forgiving them does not mean what they did was acceptable. It means you are choosing to stop carrying the weight of their actions. It means you are deciding that your peace matters more than their accountability. It means you are releasing yourself from a prison that they do not even know exists. And here is the liberating truth. You do not need them to apologize in order to forgive. You do not need them to acknowledge what they did. You do not need them to change. Forgiveness is not a transaction. It is a gift you give to yourself. You can forgive someone and still have a boundary. You can forgive someone and still choose not to engage deeply with them. You can forgive someone and still protect your energy. These things are not contradictions. They are actually the healthiest combination there is. Forgiveness plus boundaries equals peace. That is the formula. It is simple, but it takes practice. And you will have to do it over and over because resentment has a habit of creeping back in. But each time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, you are choosing yourself over their limitations. And that is a powerful choice. Now I want to speak directly to those of you who are in your 50s and 60s. You have seen so much. You have lived through things that younger people cannot yet comprehend. You have survived losses. You have weathered storms. You have reinvented yourself more times than you can count. And through all of it, you have maintained a heart that still cares, that still wants to connect, that still believes in the goodness of people. Do you know how remarkable that is? After everything you have been through, your heart is still open. That is not weakness. That is courage of the highest order. The world will try to tell you that you should be tougher by now, that you should have thicker skin, that you should stop letting things get to you. But I want to tell you the opposite. Your tenderness is your power, your ability to still be moved by kindness, your ability to still feel pain when someone is dismissed, your ability to still cry at a beautiful song or a heartfelt gesture. These things make you more human, not less. And in a world that is becoming increasingly numb, you are a reminder of what it means to be fully alive. Do not let anyone diminish that. Do not let the people who cannot feel as deeply as you make you believe that your depth is a problem. It is their shallowness that is the limitation, not your depth. You just happen to be swimming in the deep end while they are standing in the kiddie pool. And they have no idea what the ocean looks like. Let me bring this all together now. Tonight we covered a lot of ground. We talked about why some people seem impossible to communicate with. The answer was not about malice or stupidity. It was about how their brains process information differently. They lack the ability to receive communication below the surface level. They hear words but miss everything underneath them. They are tuned to a different frequency. And no matter how clearly you broadcast your signal, they cannot pick it up. We talked about why you are the one who notices this disconnect. It is because your brain has developed a remarkably rich capacity for empathy and emotional perception. This was not something you were born with. It was built over decades of experience. Every relationship, every hardship, every moment of compassion contributed to this ability. It is the sum total of your lived experience, and it is a genuine gift. We talked about the cost of this gift. How being deeply perceptive means you also absorb more pain. How your sensitivity makes you vulnerable to emotional exhaustion. How you can burn out by giving too much to people who cannot give back. We talked about the solution. Setting emotional boundaries. Changing your expectations. Accepting people for who they are without trying to change them. Dimming your emotional engagement with people who cannot receive your full signal. And redirecting your energy toward the people and activities that truly fill you up. We talked about the power of the quiet inventory. Looking at your relationships honestly and asking which ones give energy and which ones take it. Making conscious choices about where to invest your limited emotional resources. We talked about forgiveness as a tool for freedom. Not for the other person but for you. Releasing the weight of resentment so that you can walk lighter through your days. And we talked about the courage it takes to remain open-hearted in a world that often rewards numbness. Your tenderness is not a weakness. It is a superpower. One that the world desperately needs. So here is what I want you to take away from tonight. You are not too sensitive. You are not too emotional. You are not too much of anything. You are exactly the right amount of everything. The exhaustion you feel is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you have been giving at a level that most people will never understand. And it is time to start giving to yourself with the same generosity you give to others. Tomorrow, when you encounter that person who never seems to get it, try something different. Instead of bracing yourself for frustration, take a breath. Remind yourself of what you now know. Their inability to understand is about their brain, not your worth. Let their words pass over you like wind. Respond calmly. Keep it simple. Do not try to make them see what they cannot see. And when the conversation is over, let it go. Do not carry it home. Do not replay it. Do not analyze it. Just let it be what it was. An interaction with someone who operates on a different frequency. Nothing more. Nothing less. Then take that energy you would have spent on frustration and put it somewhere beautiful. Call that friend who always makes you laugh. Sit with your partner and actually talk about something meaningful. Play with your grandchildren. Take a walk outside and notice the sky. Read a book that moves you. Cook something that makes your kitchen smell wonderful. Do anything that reminds you of who you are when you are not busy trying to be understood by people who cannot understand. Because who you are is extraordinary. You are a person who feels deeply in a world that often feels nothing. You are a person who notices the unspoken in a world that barely listens to the spoken. You are a person who still believes in connection in a world that is increasingly disconnected. That is rare. That is valuable. That is worth protecting. So protect it. Starting tonight. You have my full permission to stop pouring your water onto concrete. Your garden is waiting. It has been waiting for a long time. And it deserves every drop you have. Before I let you go, I want to say one more thing. You came here tonight for a reason. Maybe you did not know exactly what you were looking for. Maybe you were just scrolling and something caught your eye. Maybe you were looking for validation that you are not crazy. Maybe you needed someone to tell you that what you are feeling is real and it matters. Whatever the reason, I am glad you are here. And I want you to know that what you are feeling is real. It does matter. And you are not crazy. You are one of the most sane people in the room. Because you can see what others cannot. And that is not a burden. It is a responsibility. A responsibility to use your gift wisely. To protect it fiercely. And to share it only with those who are worthy of it. You have spent too many years giving your best to people who gave you their worst. That chapter is closing. Starting tonight, you are entering a new chapter. A chapter where you choose yourself first. Where you honor your own needs. Where you stop apologizing for having a heart that feels everything. Where you build a life surrounded by people who actually deserve your warmth. It will not happen overnight. Change never does. But it starts with awareness. And tonight you have that awareness. You see the pattern now. You understand the science behind it. You know it is not your fault. You know your empathy is a strength, not a weakness. You know that boundaries are not walls but bridges to a better life. You know that you can forgive and still protect yourself. You know that your energy is finite and precious and worth guarding. And you know that the right people, the ones who truly see you, are the ones who deserve your full attention. Everything else is noise. Beautiful, necessary, imperfect noise. But noise nonetheless. And you no longer have to let it drown out your song. Your song is important. It is one of a kind. And the people who can hear it really hear it. They hear every note. They feel every chord. They understand the melody without you having to explain it. Those are your people. Go find more of them. And let the rest fade gently into the background where they belong. It has been a long day. You have carried a lot. And you are still here. Still reading. Still hoping. Still caring. That tells me everything I need to know about you. You are strong. You are kind. You are resilient. And you are going to be okay. More than okay. You are going to thrive. Because people like you always do. Not because life is easy for you, but because you have something that cannot be taught or bought or faked. You have a heart that refuses to give up on love. Even when love has been hard. Even when love has hurt. Even when love has asked more of you than seemed fair. You keep showing up. And that is the most beautiful thing about you. Rest well tonight. You earned it. Tomorrow is a new day. A day where you walk a little lighter. A day where you hold your boundaries a little firmer. A day where you pour your water on your own garden. And maybe, just maybe, you will look in the mirror and see what the rest of us already see. Someone extraordinary. Someone who has been giving the world their best for decades. Someone who finally realizes they deserve the same in return. Sleep well. You are not alone. You were never alone. And tomorrow your garden starts to bloom.